In a high-tech research facility located on the outskirts of a quiet city, a group of brilliant scientists were working on a project that could change the course of human history. The project was simple in its goal: analyze human DNA to find flaws and weaknesses that could be fixed to improve health. They had been given access to the most advanced technology, and for the past several months, they had been meticulously studying the genetic makeup of thousands of human samples. The team was proud of their work, believing that they were on the brink of something revolutionary. Dr. Lena Patel, the lead scientist, had always been fascinated by genetics. Her passion for the subject started when she was a young girl, curious about the tiny cells that made up everything in the world around her. Now, as an adult, she found herself at the forefront of groundbreaking research. Lena spent long hours working in the lab, her eyes glued to the computer screens that displayed complex genetic sequences. She was determined to find the key to eliminating diseases like cancer and heart disease, which had plagued humanity for so long. One quiet evening, as the rest of the team was wrapping up their work for the night, Lena stayed behind to continue her analysis. She was tired, but something urged her to keep going. She stared at the screen, trying to make sense of the data in front of her. As she scrolled through the DNA sequences, a strange pattern caught her eye. At first, it seemed like a mistake, a glitch in the system that had caused the data to display incorrectly. But Lena's trained eyes saw something different. She leaned closer to the screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, ready to run another test. Something about the pattern felt off, yet oddly familiar. It was like a code, a hidden message buried deep within the DNA. Lena knew the human genome inside and out, and this didn't look like anything she had ever seen before. It was a small anomaly, tucked away in one section of the sequence, but it was impossible to ignore. Her curiosity grew. Was this some kind of error, or was it something more? With a sense of urgency, she quickly ran another set of tests, hoping to either confirm her suspicion or prove it wrong. Minutes later, the results came back. The pattern was real. It wasn't a glitch or mistake. It was a deliberate code, placed somewhere deep in the DNA. Lena's heart began to race as she stared at the data. What did this mean? She had never seen anything like it before. And the more she looked, the more questions it raised. The sequence didn't resemble anything natural. It was too perfect, too precise. It was as if it had been intentionally placed there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to find it. Lena didn't know what to think. Her mind raced with possibilities, each one more disturbing than the last. Could it be that someone had tampered with the human genome? Had they done it to improve human health, or was there a darker reason behind it? She sat back in her chair, her mind spinning. She knew she had to tell someone, but who could she trust? Her team had always been loyal, but this was something that could change everything. If it was true, it could shake the foundations of everything they knew about humanity. Taking a deep breath, Lena grabbed her phone and called Dr. Marcus Allen, the head of the research team. He was a man known for his calm demeanor and rational thinking, and she needed his guidance. The phone rang a few times before he answered. "Lena, what's going on?" Marcus's voice came through the line, still heavy with sleep. He sounded groggy but alert. "I need you to come to the lab," Lena said quickly. "I found something. Something I can't explain." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Lena could hear him shifting in his chair, probably pulling himself together. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said before hanging up. Lena paced the lab, her mind working in overdrive. What could this pattern mean? Why had it been hidden in the DNA? Was it a message, or was it something more sinister? She didn't know, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she had uncovered something that would change the world forever. When Marcus arrived, Lena was standing in front of the large computer monitor, her fingers trembling as she pointed to the screen. "Look at this," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "Do you see it?" Marcus stepped closer, his eyes narrowing as he examined the data. He didn't speak at first, just studied it intently, his brow furrowing in concentration. Lena watched him, waiting for his reaction. "I don't know what this is," Marcus finally said. His voice was low, almost uncertain. "It doesn't look like any genetic sequence I've ever seen." Lena nodded, her own fear creeping up her spine. "It's not just a glitch, Marcus. I've run the tests. This is real. There's something in the DNA, something that's been placed there." Marcus turned to her, his eyes wide. "What are you saying? Are you suggesting someone tampered with human DNA?" Lena hesitated, trying to find the right words. "I don't know, but it's possible. This sequence, it's too perfect. It doesn't fit with anything natural." Marcus sat down at the desk, running his hand through his hair. "We need to investigate further. If what you're saying is true, this could be huge. We have to know who did this and why." Lena agreed, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too deep into something they didn't fully understand. The data before them was like a puzzle, and the more they pieced it together, the more the picture seemed to change, revealing new and unsettling details. They spent the next few hours running more tests, but each time they came back, the results only deepened the mystery. The code was consistent, hidden deep within the sequences of human DNA, placed there in a way that couldn't have been an accident. There was no record of anything like this in any scientific database. It was as if it had been erased from history, waiting for someone to uncover it. As the night wore on, Lena's mind began to race. If this was a deliberate modification of human DNA, who had done it? And more importantly, why? Was it for the benefit of humanity, or was there a darker, more dangerous purpose behind it? She knew one thing for sure. The discovery they had made was just the beginning. They had only scratched the surface, and the truth, whatever it was out there, waiting to be uncovered. "You said, 'I don't know what this is,'" Marcus finally said. His voice was low, almost uncertain. "It doesn't look like any genetic sequence I've ever seen." Lena nodded, her own fear creeping up her spine. "It's not just a glitch, Marcus. I've run the tests. This is real. There's something in the DNA, something that's been placed there." Marcus turned to her, his eyes wide. "What are you saying? Are you suggesting someone tampered with human DNA?" Lena hesitated, trying to find the right words. "I don't know, but it's possible. This sequence, it's too perfect. It doesn't fit with anything natural." Marcus sat down at the desk, running his hand through his hair. "We need to investigate further. If what you're saying is true, this could be huge. We have to know who did this and why." Lena agreed, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too deep into something they didn't fully understand. The data before them was like a puzzle, and the more they pieced it together, the more the picture seemed to change, revealing new and unsettling details. They spent the next few hours running more tests, but each time they came back, the results only deepened the mystery. The code was consistent, hidden deep within the sequences of human DNA, placed there in a way that couldn't have been an accident. There was no record of anything like this in any scientific database. It was as if it had been erased from history, waiting for someone to uncover it. As the night wore on, Lena's mind began to race. If this was a deliberate modification of human DNA, who had done it? And more importantly, why? Was it for the benefit of humanity, or was there a darker, more dangerous purpose behind it? She knew one thing for sure. The discovery they had made was just the beginning. They had only scratched the surface, and the truth, whatever it was out there, waiting to be uncovered. As the hours passed, the lab grew quieter. The only sounds were the soft hum of the machines and the rhythmic typing of Lena and Marcus as they continued their analysis. Their initial excitement had shifted into a quiet tension. There was no denying it now. They had stumbled upon something that wasn't just an ordinary genetic anomaly. This was different. The implications of their discovery were too enormous to ignore. Lena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every time she glanced up from the computer screen, she felt as though someone was there, observing them from the shadows. But when she looked around the room, the lab was empty, just the two of them. Still, the sense of unease lingered like a cloud hanging over them. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she hesitated, unsure of what to do next. The tests were coming back consistently, each one confirming that something had been placed in the DNA, something that shouldn't be there. But why? And who had done it? Marcus leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. He had been at the lab for almost 16 hours, and it was starting to take its toll. He was usually the level-headed one, the one who could remain calm in any situation. But tonight, something was different. The discovery they had made had shaken him in a way he hadn't expected. He looked over at Lena, who was still staring intently at the screen, her face pale and tense. She looked as if she hadn't slept in days. "You're thinking the same thing I am, aren't you?" Marcus asked quietly, breaking the silence. Lena didn't respond at first. She wasn't sure how to put it into words. But she knew. She had been thinking about it for hours now. It was too impossible to ignore. She nodded slowly, her gaze never leaving the screen. "If this is true," Marcus continued, his voice low and uncertain, "then everything we know about human evolution, about life itself, could be wrong. We've always believed that humanity evolved naturally, that our DNA is the result of billions of years of random mutations. But if this is some kind of engineered sequence..." He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Lena felt a cold chill run down her spine. She had thought about the same thing, but saying it aloud made it feel too real. If this code was part of human DNA, then what did it mean for the future of humanity? Had they been created or manipulated by someone, or something else? For the first time since they'd discovered the anomaly, Lena felt a twinge of fear. What if they were getting too close to something that was better left untouched? She glanced at the clock on the wall and saw that it was nearly 2:00 a.m. It had been hours since they'd discovered the pattern, and there was no sign of stopping. "We need to tell the others," Lena said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Her words seemed to hang in the air, heavy with the weight of what they had uncovered. "We can't keep this to ourselves. It's too big." Marcus looked at her, his expression grave. "We don't even know what this is yet. If we tell them now, it could cause mass panic. We could be putting ourselves in danger." Lena shook her head. "But we can't keep hiding this. It's too important." Marcus sighed and rubbed his temples. He understood her frustration. He felt it too. But he also knew the dangers of rushing into something without fully understanding it. The world wasn't ready for this kind of revelation. They had to be careful. As the two of them sat in silence, the atmosphere in the lab grew even more oppressive. The lights flickered briefly, and a low hum filled the air. Lena looked up, startled. She could have sworn she heard a noise, footsteps. But when she turned around, there was nothing. Just the usual quiet of the lab. But the feeling of being watched only grew stronger. Marcus looked over at her, his brow furrowed in concern. "Lena, are you okay?" She nodded quickly, trying to push the unsettling feeling aside. "Yeah, just tired, I guess." But deep down, she knew it wasn't just fatigue. Something about the lab, the air, felt different. There was an eerie quality to it now, as if the walls themselves were closing in on them. She couldn't shake the sense that they were being observed, monitored even. But who or what would be watching them? Before Marcus could say anything more, Lena's phone buzzed on the desk. She jumped, startled by the sudden noise. Glancing down, she saw that it was a text from Dr. Olivia Green, one of the other researchers on the team. "Olivia. Lena, we need to talk. I think I've found something too. It's strange." Lena frowned and quickly typed back a response. "Lena, what do you mean? What have you found?" The response came almost immediately. "Olivia, I can't explain it over text. Meet me in the break room in 10 minutes. Lena's heart skipped a beat. She exchanged a glance with Marcus, who raised an eyebrow. "Do you think she's onto something?" he asked. Lena hesitated for a moment, unsure. "I don't know, but it could be related. We've all been working on the same project. Maybe she's found something connected to what we've discovered." Without saying anything more, she grabbed her coat and motioned for Marcus to follow her. As they left the lab and walked down the empty hallway, the unsettling feeling that had been gnawing at Lena's mind only grew stronger. There was something wrong here. Something about the entire situation didn't feel right. When they entered the break room, Olivia was already waiting for them. She looked anxious, her eyes darting around as though she was afraid someone might be listening. "What's going on?" Lena asked, her voice low. Olivia glanced nervously at the door before speaking. "I've been running some tests on the data, and I think I found something similar to what you two have discovered. But it's not just in the human DNA. It's in every sample I've been looking at. Every single one." Lena's stomach tightened. This was worse than she had thought. "What do you mean?" Marcus asked, his voice tense. Olivia swallowed hard. "It's like there's a hidden message in the DNA. A pattern that's not just in humans, but in every sample we've analyzed. It's everywhere. It's too perfect to be natural." Lena's blood ran cold. She turned to Marcus, who looked just as stunned as she felt. "Are you saying that whatever we found isn't just in human DNA?" Lena asked, her voice barely audible. Olivia nodded. "Yes. It's like a code. Something placed there on purpose." The realization hit Lena like a wave. They weren't just dealing with a human anomaly anymore. They had uncovered something much bigger, something far more dangerous. And whatever it was out there, waiting for them to figure it out. The silence in the break room hung heavily around them, as the weight of Olivia's words settled in. Lena stood frozen, her mind racing. She had always suspected that there was more to their discovery than met the eye, but hearing Olivia's confirmation made it all too real. They weren't just dealing with a strange anomaly in human DNA. They were uncovering something far more complex and terrifying, something that was deliberately hidden, perhaps for centuries. Marcus broke the silence first, his voice quiet but firm. "Are you saying that this pattern is in every DNA sample you've looked at, not just humans?" Olivia nodded slowly, her face pale and drawn. "Yes, I started with human DNA. But then I ran tests on animal samples, plants, and even some microbial life. The same pattern, the same code, is everywhere. It's not just a genetic mutation. It's a design." Lena felt a cold chill crawl up her spine. If what Olivia was saying was true, then this wasn't a natural part of life at all. It wasn't an accident or a flaw. It was intentional, something engineered. But by who? And why? The thought of it made her stomach churn. She had always believed in the theory of natural evolution, the idea that life on Earth had developed through random mutations and environmental pressures. But what if that wasn't the case at all? What if life, as they knew it, had been manipulated from the very beginning? "We need to run more tests," Marcus said, breaking Lena from her thoughts. "We need to understand what this is and why it's here. If someone, or something, has been altering the DNA of every living organism, we have to know what their purpose is." Lena nodded in agreement, her mind racing. "But what do we tell the rest of the team? If we're right, this could change everything. People might panic. They might not understand." Olivia's expression grew darker. "We can't keep this to ourselves, Lena. We can't ignore this. But we have to be careful. Whoever is behind this, they might be watching us already." The last word sent a ripple of unease through Lena. Watching them. The idea that someone, or something, was observing their every move was enough to make her skin crawl. The strange occurrences in the lab, the feeling of being watched, the power surges and equipment malfunctions, all of it started to make more sense. They weren't just dealing with a scientific anomaly. They were involved in something far more dangerous. Lena's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. She turned quickly, her heart racing. A few seconds later, Dr. Olivia's assistant, A young scientist named Simon entered the break room. His face was ashen, his eyes wide with fear. "What's wrong, Simon?" Marcus asked, his voice calm but filled with concern. Simon took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "There's something happening in the main lab. The equipment, it's malfunctioning. We're losing data. The system is crashing every time we try to access the DNA files. And there's a strange signal coming from the mainframe. It's like someone is trying to block us from getting to the data." Lena's heart sank. The sudden urgency in Simon's voice, combined with the news of system failures, sent a wave of dread through her. Whoever, or whatever, was behind the genetic modifications wasn't just watching them. They were actively trying to stop them from discovering the truth. "What kind of signal?" Lena asked, her voice sharp. "Can you track it?" Simon shook his head. "No, it's too advanced. It's not anything we've seen before. It's like it's disguised. Every time we try to trace it, it leads us in circles. It's almost as if the signal is deliberately hidden, trying to keep us from finding it." Olivia's face grew more concerned. "This is getting worse, isn't it?" Lena nodded, her mind racing. Whoever was behind this knew they were close to the truth, and they were taking measures to keep it hidden. It wasn't just a scientific mystery anymore. It was a matter of survival. They had no idea what kind of forces they were up against, but it was clear that they were not alone in this. "We have to go back to the lab," Marcus said, his tone decisive. "We need to see what's going on with the system and figure out what's causing the signal. We can't let this go any further without understanding it." As they made their way back to the main lab, the tension in the air was palpable. Every step they took seemed to echo in the empty hallways, the silence surrounding them thick and oppressive. Lena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that someone, or something, was tracking their every movement. The feeling of being under constant surveillance made her skin crawl. When they entered the lab, the scene was just as Simon had described. The room was dimly lit, and the hum of the machines had grown erratic, almost deafening. The screens flickered sporadically, and the data they had been working on earlier was now corrupted, the once clear genetic sequences replaced with garbled text and strange symbols. The system was failing, and it was as if someone was deliberately sabotaging their work. Lena's heart pounded in her chest as she walked toward the main computer terminal. The familiar interface was now almost unrecognizable, and the cursor blinked erratically on the screen, as if waiting for someone to make the next move. She tried typing in a command to restore the system, but the computer rejected her input. She tried again, but the same result. It was as if the system was alive, resisting their attempts to fix it. "This isn't just a malfunction," Olivia said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Someone is tampering with our work." Marcus turned to her, his expression grim. "We need to shut the system down completely and start over. We can't risk continuing without knowing who's behind this." Lena nodded, her mind racing. They had to stop the sabotage before it was too late. But as she prepared to shut down the system, a sudden realization hit her. What if this wasn't just a random act of interference? What if someone was trying to stop them because they knew what they were about to uncover? What if they were on the verge of revealing a truth that someone, or something, didn't want anyone to know? With a sense of urgency, Lena began typing faster, trying to access the backup systems. But before she could do anything, the lights in the lab flickered violently, then went out completely, plunging the room into darkness. The sound of machines whirring to a stop filled the air, and for a moment, there was nothing but silence. Lena's breath caught in her throat as she stood frozen in the pitch-black room. Then, out of nowhere, a faint glow appeared on the far side of the lab. It was coming from one of the computer screens. Slowly, the screen began to fill with strange symbols that looked eerily familiar. They were the same ones that had been appearing in their DNA sequences. Lena felt a chill run down her spine as the glow from the screen intensified. This wasn't just a technical failure. This was something else, something far beyond their understanding. And whoever, or whatever was behind this. They were now revealing themselves. The glow from the screen grew brighter, casting an eerie light across the darkened lab. It flickered and shifted, and the strange symbols on the display began to change, moving and rearranging themselves as if alive. Lena stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never seen anything like this before. The symbols weren't just random. They were organized, forming some kind of pattern. But the pattern was indecipherable, like a code that only someone with a deep understanding of its language could unravel. Marcus stepped closer to the screen, squinting at the glowing symbols. His brow furrowed, and he slowly raised his hand, as if unsure whether he should touch the monitor. "This isn't just a glitch," he said quietly, his voice tinged with fear. "This is deliberate. Someone is trying to communicate with us." Lena swallowed hard, her throat dry. She felt a strange mixture of awe and terror, as though they were on the verge of uncovering something so vast, so incomprehensible, that it could break their understanding of everything. The room was suffocating with tension as they waited, unsure of what would happen next. Then, as if in response to Marcus's words, the symbols on the screen began to form into coherent sentences. They were in a language Lena didn't recognize, yet somehow the meaning behind them was clear. "You are getting too close. Stop now, or suffer the consequences." Lena's breath caught in her throat, and a cold shiver ran down her spine. She knew they had been warned. Someone, or something, was watching them, and it didn't want them to uncover the truth. The warning was like a weight pressing down on her chest, making it harder to breathe. She turned to Marcus, but the fear in his eyes mirrored her own. "What do we do now?" Olivia's voice trembled from behind them, her fear evident. She had been standing at the edge of the room, watching everything unfold in stunned silence. Lena's mind raced. They couldn't just ignore the warning, but they couldn't back down either. They had already uncovered too much. The code in the DNA, the hidden message, the strange signals, it all pointed to something far bigger than they could have ever imagined. There was no turning back now. "We have to keep going," Lena said, her voice shaky but determined. "Whatever this is, we can't let it stop us. We need to find out who or what is behind this, and why they're trying to stop us." Marcus nodded slowly, his face pale. "But we have no idea what we're dealing with. Whoever, whatever this is, it's clear they have control over our systems. We're in over our heads." Lena took a deep breath, forcing herself to focus. The warning had been clear, but they had come this far. They couldn't turn back now. They had to figure out what was happening before it was too late. "Let's analyze the code," Lena said, determination setting into her voice. "We need to break it down, piece by piece. We can't let it intimidate us. It might be our only chance to understand what's really going on." As they worked to decipher the glowing code, the lab seemed to close in around them, its walls pressing in with every passing minute. The symbols on the screen twisted and writhed, refusing to make sense to their human eyes. But slowly, as they carefully typed out commands, the pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place. The code was like nothing they had ever encountered before. It was ancient and advanced, a language so complex that it defied their understanding of biology, technology, and even physics. Yet, as they dug deeper, one thing became clear. This wasn't just some isolated experiment. It was a message, a warning, and a challenge all rolled into one. Then, as if mocking their efforts, the screen flickered once again, and the message changed. It was no longer a warning, but an ultimatum. "You will cease your investigation now, or you will be erased. The choice is yours." Lena's stomach twisted in knots. Erased. What did that mean? Was it a threat to their research, or something far worse? Her thoughts raced. The message wasn't just a warning anymore. Whoever was behind this wasn't just trying to scare them. They were actively threatening them. Marcus turned to Lena, his expression one of desperation. "Lena, we have to think carefully. Whoever is doing this has resources beyond anything we can comprehend. We don't even know what erased means. Are they talking about deleting our data? Or something worse? Before Lena could respond, there was a sudden burst of static from the speakers. A voice crackled through the silence, harsh and distorted, but unmistakably real. You have 1 hour. After that, you will no longer have the ability to make any choices. The voice was cold, inhuman. It sent a chill down Lena's spine as she felt the weight of its words sink in. Whatever was behind this, they were serious. They weren't playing games. We don't have much time, Olivia whispered, her voice trembling. We need to figure out who is behind this before it's too late. Lena's mind raced as she tried to make sense of everything. The glowing code, the warnings, the cryptic messages. It all pointed to something enormous. Someone had been tampering with human DNA for reasons they couldn't yet comprehend, and now they were being threatened to stop. Let's not waste any more time, Lena said, determination creeping into her voice despite the fear. We've come too far to give up now. We need to go through the data one last time. We need to find out what they're trying to hide, and why they're so desperate to stop us. With a sense of urgency, Lena sat down at the main terminal and started scrolling through the corrupted data. As she carefully combed through the files, a pattern began to emerge, an unfamiliar sequence buried within the genetic code. It wasn't part of any known human gene sequence. It was an entirely new code, unlike anything they had seen before. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just about improving human health or advancing science. This was about control. Whoever had created this code, this pattern, had designed it with one purpose in mind: to manipulate life itself. As Lena continued to analyze the data, she found that the code was not just present in humans, animals, and plants. It was universal. The same sequence was embedded in the very fabric of life itself. It was in everything. And the more she thought about it, the more it became clear. This wasn't just a message. It was a blueprint for life, a blueprint for control. And whoever had created it had been watching them closely, waiting for them to uncover the truth. The realization hit Lena like a thunderclap. The code, the blueprint, it wasn't just part of human DNA or animal genes. It was embedded in the very foundation of life itself. Every organism on Earth, every plant, every microbe, even the air and the water. They were all part of this grand design. The more she thought about it, the more the pieces began to align. Whoever had created this blueprint had woven it into the very fabric of existence, and they weren't going to let anyone expose it without a fight. We have to stop this, Lena said, her voice low but fierce. Her fingers flew over the keyboard as she tried to decrypt the message in the code, hoping to find some clue, some way to understand who was behind it and what they wanted. But the data was growing increasingly corrupted, the symbols more and more unreadable. It was as though the system itself was fighting back, preventing them from uncovering the truth. Olivia was standing next to her face pale and tense. What if we can't stop it? What if it's too late already? Lena shook her head, not allowing herself to give in to fear. We can't think like that. We have to keep going. Whatever this is, we can't let them win. We need to figure out who's behind this before it's too late. Marcus, who had been standing silently at the back of the room, finally stepped forward. But how? If they have control of the system, if they're manipulating the data and threatening us. His voice trailed off as the weight of their situation settled over him. We don't even know who they are. We're up against something we don't understand, and they've given us an ultimatum. We don't have much time, Lena replied firmly, her mind focused. If this blueprint is as important as I think it is, we need to destroy it before it spreads further. It's not just about us anymore. It's about protecting everyone. Olivia's eyes widened in shock. What do you mean? Protecting everyone from what? Lena turned to her, her expression serious. This blueprint isn't just about controlling life. It's about controlling the entire planet. It could rewrite biology itself. If whoever created this code has the ability to manipulate every living thing on Earth, they could do anything. They could change the course of evolution, or worse, they could erase entire species. They could wipe out humanity if they wanted to. This isn't just a science experiment. It's a weapon. Marcus's eyes narrowed as he absorbed her words. So this code could be used to control everything. Lena nodded grimly. Exactly. And whoever has it, they've been hiding it for years, maybe longer. But now that we've uncovered it, they're trying to silence us. They know we're getting too close. There was a long silence in the room as the implications of what Lena had said sank in. The message, the threats, it wasn't just a test. They were dealing with something far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. Suddenly, the system began to hum again. The lights flickered once more, and the screens came to life with a flash of static. The same cryptic symbols appeared on the monitors, but this time, there was a message beneath them. You have failed. The process has already begun. You are too late. The words sent a shockwave of panic through the group. The realization that they might have already lost was almost too much to bear. But Lena, despite the fear gnawing at her, refused to give up. She couldn't. Not now. No, Lena muttered, her voice firm with resolve. We're not too late. We can still stop it. Marcus looked at her, his expression a mix of admiration and fear. Lena, what do you mean? How can we stop something that's already started? Lena turned back to the screen, her mind working quickly. The data was corrupted, the code scrambled, but it was clear that someone, or something, had been manipulating it. They had to find a way to reverse the process, to destroy the blueprint before it could complete its activation. As she typed furiously, another realization hit her. The message wasn't just a threat. It was a warning. A warning that the process had already started, but it wasn't complete yet. If they acted quickly, they might still have a chance. Lena glanced up at Marcus and Olivia. I need you to help me. We need to access the central server, the one that controls the mainframe. If we can shut it down completely, we might be able to destroy the code before it spreads. Marcus nodded, understanding the urgency. Let's do it. We don't have much time. The three of them raced out of the break room and down the hallway, their footsteps echoing in the empty, darkened building. The tension was thick in the air as they moved swiftly toward the central server room. Lena could feel her heart pounding in her chest, each beat urging her forward. When they reached the server room, Lena quickly got to work. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and she was immediately met with rows of towering servers, each one glowing faintly in the dim light. Her mind raced as she scanned the rows, trying to locate the central terminal that would give her access to the mainframe. Marcus and Olivia stood watch, their eyes scanning the room for any signs of movement, but it was eerily quiet. The silence was oppressive, adding to the tension that weighed on their shoulders. Lena reached the terminal and immediately began typing, her fingers moving faster than she thought possible. She was so focused on the task at hand that she barely noticed the sudden chill that had settled over the room. Her breath caught in her throat as the temperature seemed to drop, and a low, vibrating hum filled the air. Something was wrong. They weren't alone. Then, a voice broke through the silence. It was the same cold, distorted voice they had heard before. You cannot stop it. It is already in motion. You are too late. Lena's heart skipped a beat. The voice was closer this time, almost as though it was speaking directly to them. She looked around the room, but there was no one there. Only the machines and the servers, their blinking lights casting eerie shadows. But then, something caught her eye. On one of the nearby monitors, a new set of symbols appeared, different from the ones they had seen before. They were like a set of coordinates, as if the machines themselves were guiding them toward something. Lena's mind spun as she processed the information. It wasn't just a threat. It was a location. The place. The place where the process had been initiated. Without thinking, she input the coordinates into the system. The screen blinked, then flashed again, revealing a map of the world. There, marked in red, was a location, a hidden base, deep underground, somewhere far from civilization. It was a place they had never seen before. Lena's voice was steady, though her heart raced. This is it. This is where it all started. We need to go there. Now. Marcus looked at her, his face pale but resolute. You're sure? We can't back out now. Lena nodded. There's no turning back. We have to stop this before it's too late. With one last glance at the central terminal, Lena grabbed her bag and turned toward the door. They were going to find the source. They were going to uncover the truth. And no matter the cost, they were going to stop it. As they left the server room, the hum of the machines and the voice on the speakers faded behind them. But in the pit of Lena's stomach, the fear remained. They were walking into the unknown, but they had no choice. The world depended on them finding the answers and stopping whatever force had been manipulating life itself for so long. The race against time had begun.